So this job was my first job coming out of uni. I actually did my internship here, and they called me about 2 months afterwards asking if I wanted a job. So yeah, so I took it. I think I had the typical vision of I want to change the world and I want to make a difference and, you know, make things better, which I still kind of do, but I've got more experience behind me now. So Stories to Solutions was actually the first project that I was allocated when I got here. And for a while, it didn't. The concept of it, we kept working on it, and it didn't quite hit that. It didn't quite reach the level that I was envisioning, because I felt like there was something missing. And then COVID happened, and then an opportunity presented itself for me to reintroduce that concept, but in a different way. So as part of National Reconciliation Week, I adapted that concept to creating Stories to Solutions as a series, and then different volumes underneath that that brand. And the first volume was relating to reconciliation and the theme of Be Brave, Make Change, which was the National Reconciliation Week theme. And that was what was missing, I think, was having something that was meaningful and was contributing to conversation in a more valuable way that I felt was happening now. So yeah. The original concept was it was following the same concept, but the organisations and the people that were going to be featured were going to be from the winners of the Zest Awards, which is our annual award ceremony for celebrating the achievements of people, organisations, projects, individuals in Western Sydney. And that was, it was good, but I felt like I could add a bit more to it, and I wasn't happy with it until recently when I sort of adapted it to National Reconciliation Week. It was to highlight the evidence and practice that was being implemented in different organisations and groups and everything, and the people that were going to be featured would have been chosen from the Zest winners. So in a lot of ways it was going to be the same, but focusing on Indigenous run, Indigenous controlled organisations, and having the people that I interviewed themselves sort of co-writing almost. So I wouldn't publish anything that they weren't happy with, and having that as a process, and focusing more on having them guide me, and having looser questions, not so structured, that I adapting that and tweaking that process and tweaking that concept is, I think, what made the difference, and what made it, more meaningful. Yeah. So I'm reminded of a particular interview that I did, and I don't like to call them interviews because it seems very one-sided. It was a conversation. But one particular conversation, I had my own manner of asking the questions, which I didn't think was all that bad. And I received the feedback that it was received in a much more almost aggressive way. Not aggressive out of like violence or malice or anything, but the way that I was asking the question made them think that I was trying to justify the work that they were doing and how they were doing the work and where they were getting the money from, and it was an insight in terms of being able to hear back my question, but the way that they received it. And it was something that hadn't been told to me before. So I was a bit taken aback, but immediately apologetic. But it made me think of how I usually reflect on my own questions before I say them, but having to refine them further so that it isn't received in that way, or having a disclaimer before having that kind of conversation, or just a different approach to doing it. And so I immediately used that feedback to improve my next conversation with the next person that I was going to be talking to. So it was like, that interaction was, or that situation was over in like 10 minutes. But it's those little things that kind of add up to help improve my process of, talking with people and gathering information in different ways and everything. So yeah, it was a bit of both. Also because it was a phone conversation, I had to think about the tone of voice that I was using. There were some emails that I was supposed to send afterwards that I had to read through and change like wording, and just made sure that it was going to be received in a better way. But yeah, it was a bit of an all-round refining. I think I told my supervisor about that, and in that moment I didn't need direct support, but I think it was just good to get it off my chest and to have someone hear the interaction that happened, even if it didn't go anywhere, as at least they would be able to, maybe they could learn from it too, I don't know. At the moment, there are a couple of ideas floating around, but just like I worked on finding that, I'm going to call it a spark, finding that spark for this one that made it work and made me sort of kind of say, like, yeah, we've got it. I'm going to be waiting for that moment to come where I can say, okay, these dots are connecting, this is what's going to happen. I like how this is going in direction, and yeah, going from there. the humanity of it. I always say to myself that this is the only industry that's never going to be replaced by robots, because you can't. And I've heard people say before, and I say to myself as well, that I'd like to be able to work myself out of a job. I know that that probably won't happen, but I like to hold that hope that there's like, I don't know, there's like a light at the end of the tunnel, that someday things might get, you know, better. And the world seems very big at times and very overwhelming at times, and I think doing this kind of work day to day, it helps me to understand my place in the world and understand my sphere of influence and what I can control, what I can't control. And I think that helps me cope better with the world as well. So knowing that I'm doing a little bit in my own way to to help people live better lives.
And
this is from my perspective, because obviously I can't speak for the people who are impacted by racism every day. I can't tell you what they think my input has been. But I've been learning, and I've been trying to improve myself on not just being non-racist, but being actively anti-racist, both personally and professionally. And I think it's through listening to stories from the working group, or listening to other stories that go on in the office, or doing training here, or speaking to external stakeholders, or just doing the regular day-to-day work that I do. There is that mindset of always striving to be a better version of yourself, and having the organisation strive to be a better version of itself. So I think I've contributed to anti-racism in my professional work as well as my personal life, by working towards not just being non-racist, but actively being anti-racist.